Man, that song. I don't know if I should find a new one or if it's grooving or what. We're live. Tally Book Troubleshooting brought to you by Arc Energy. Where is that? Oh man, I got it right. Always the camera messes me up. Arc Energy, we process your energy. Jason Arsenault, all the guys over there supporting me do this crazy live stream. Man, I wake up in the morning, can't believe if you would have told me 5 years ago I'd be doing live streams and things on LinkedIn, it'd just be nuts. I'm your host, Keith Stelter, bringing you a little bit of positive PR from the Permian Basin. It is a great day today, sunny, not too hot. Been having a blast out here. The kids are doing great in school. I hope you're doing great out there. Let me know where you're watching from. I already got my first comment. The amazing Scott Emerson. Scott, thank you, sir. Appreciate you for giving me for all those years ago when I was tired and grumpy and not being all that good. It was a rough couple days. I just started with Arc Energy, and you know, it all kind of turned out. Scott Emerson, if you don't know, brother to the amazing Janie Snelson, the unofficial mayor of Midland, the Permian Basin, amazing person. Big shout out to Janie Snelson who made this happen. She met this gentleman. She immediately calls me up and she's like, man, you got to have this guy on your show, Keith. He's got this amazing story. People need to know about him. Like it's inspiring. Terry Cook, look, I'm here. Terry from Tennessee. Maybe we're doing big things. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe we got to get you on the show, Terry. Lisette, thank you very much, my fellow runway model. I hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying your new house. I think is it Crystal Beach? Crystal Beach, that's where you moved to, right? If my memory serves. John, thank you for tuning in. Wow, New Jersey. Oh, Hurricane Ivan, right? Or is it Ian? Huh. I don't remember all of a sudden. It's amazing what you'll blank out and panic on a live stream for. Thank you for tuning in, John. Really appreciate it. You're in for a treat. You don't have to be in the oil field for this story. I think it's going to be pretty good. If half the things I've heard are true, it'll all kind of work out. Robert Gomez, thank you, sir, for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Really, man, you've been great. This guy has the biggest running group in all of Midland, Texas. Comes out, and I don't know this at the time. He comes out to Workout Wednesday. I have this little group. We get together on Wednesdays. I've trained people for a long time. It was my hobby. Love bodybuilding, love fitness, and powerlifting. And Robert comes out to my Workout Wednesdays, which is every Wednesday, 3 p.m. at Payne's Gym in Odessa. Sometimes we have it in Houston when I'm traveling around. I've done it in Louisiana. And Robert comes out, has a good time. I think there was like 3 people there, 4 people maybe. Where I was like, man, this is great. Thanks for coming out. You need to come out to my running group. And I'm like, oh, man, okay, sounds great. Robert welcomes me to his running group. The guy gets like 30 to 60 people showing up to his running group all the time. It's amazing. So big shout out to Robert Gomez. If you're in Midland on Thursdays, 6:15, I believe, is the start time. Maybe it's 6. Robert could throw it up there. Big running group, 1, 2, 3 miles. It's just a fun run, and everybody goes for beers at Tall City Brewery. That's where it starts. That's where it ends. Ashley Smith. Wow. Thank you for tuning in, Ashley. We just met. Ashley Smith came out and met with us. We introduced her, me and my wife, to Shack in the Back. Ashley has just started doing some outreach with Marathon, I believe, right? So thank you very much. This is going to be an inspiring story, Ashley. Look forward to chatting more in the future. Hopefully, maybe I can get you to come on the show, Ashley, to share some great stories. Man, started out pretty good. 4 minutes in, we haven't lost internet. If you watched 2 weeks ago, I had some difficulties at the San Juan School of Energy where they had me come down, show a little bit about the school. Big shout out to Craig for inviting me. I had a blast. Thank you for all the invites and contacts you've shared with me since I've been there. It was an amazing facility. Anybody who's got, high school age, college age kids that are looking maybe what program can I do? What are the options out there? There's a great hands-on program, San Juan School of Energy. I highly recommend. Go back, check out the live stream from a couple of weeks ago, see some of the labs that the people have. It's a great little school. Speaking of great things, LAGCO is coming up. The Energy Festival, a festival, not just oil and gas. We're going to have hydrogen. There's going to be carbon capture, solar, wind, you name it. Lafayette, Louisiana, October 19th, 20th, 21st. You're going to have some of the group from that big show come on next week. Oh, Mike Jeffers. Man, I miss you, Mike. How are you doing? Hope you're doing well, Mike. Mike, is one of those guys that we connected on LinkedIn a few years ago, has always been, a great supporter. And I really like what he's done. He's had he's the master of the 2-minute video too. He used to have some great content showing what, some of the automation stuff that they did. So big shout out to Mike there. LAGCO, as I was saying, huge show coming up. We're going to be there, Arc Energy. I'm going to be there. We're going to be broadcasting a little bit. I don't think we're going to go live. We're just going to record little snippets and upload it from the booth in there and get as many people on as possible. Robert Gomez throwing it up there. Ooh, 6:30. Oh, I thought it was 6:15. Maybe you're moving it back. Running in the dark now, Robert? Is that the plan? It's definitely cooler now. Well, enough about my chatter. I know you're not here to see me. You're here to get the proverbial inspirational kick in the pants, maybe. A great gentleman, very humble. I'm not sure. He's never done this before, he tells me. I'm curious. I have purposely not talked a lot to Orlando yet, just because what Janie Snelson has told me about this gentleman. I just want to kind of be along with you and react about his story along the way here. So let's see. Oh, we got one more comment coming in here. Terry Cook, LAGCO, great event, been there, go. Yes, sir. Without further ado, I will let him do a little brief introduction, and then we'll get into a little bit about him. The man himself. Orlando, thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Sir, tell everybody who you are, what you're doing now, and then we'll get into the history.
Hey, thanks again, Keith. Really appreciate that. Orlando Magallanes, production engineer with WellWorks Energy. That's what I'm working at right now.
What does WellWorks do quickly?
So WellWorks specializes in production optimization mainly. I think that was the main focus, is increasing production and production optimization. And as they're doing that, they realize that, hey, we need some tools to help assist in this production optimization. So they have bottom hole BHAs for rod pump, gas lift, and ESP configurations. So on top of production optimization, they do some BHAs. And then we have an automation department that does that stuff. So we have the great legend Ken Nolan. Him and Dr. Sam Gibbs are the ones that came up with the SAM PLC. So Ken and them have definitely done some great work on this new controller we have. It's a Kenwell Manager PLC. So great things are coming on that part of it too.
Awesome, man. We'll get into a little bit more about what you're doing here once we get the flow of the story. But I hear you come from very humble beginnings. Did you grow up in the Permian, or where did you grow up?
I did. I grew up in Midland, Texas.
So you're a local.
I am a local, yes, sir.
But there isn't too many, actually. So many people come and go from here. Tell me a little bit about growing up in Midland, Texas.
Well, had to do a lot of growing up real quick. So definitely was on the south side of town, just in a pretty rough neighborhood. Just kind of had a rough childhood home, just like a lot of us did. Just kind of transitioning in and out of different places. Was in this. Different people took me in at different times, and sometimes it worked out and sometimes it didn't. And then I found myself kind of on my own, towards the end of high school.
So like, how old are we talking about? So where was it, official? Was it foster care? Was it, that, how was it? Or you're just, from friend couch to couch? What kind of, what was the situation?
Yeah. So Chop Check Service got in early in, so they kind of put us in different places. And of course, they always try to keep you a family. So I'd stay, at some of my aunt's houses on the couch, especially during the summer. I had some uncles that kind of picked me up, and I think I was like 7 to 9, kind of picked me up. I had an uncle that owned a mobile tire changing business. So, 7 to 9 years old, kind of doing that. in there, and then kind of stayed with my grandparents for a little bit as well too. He used to do concrete work for the city, so kind of did that with him as a kid too as well, and then just various side jobs in there, just kind of getting through the the life, So
And you mentioned going on your own. How old were you when you finally decided, I had enough of this. I gotta start taking care of myself.
probably around freshman to sophomore year, just kind of really needed to do my own thing, and the place and the situations that we're at were no good. The environment was no good, so definitely was better off doing things on my own.
So what, you're 13, 14 years old, you find your own kind of place, you're working a job and putting yourself through high school. Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I did a lot of things. I kind of faked my signature. My first job, like official job, was at Rose's when I was like 15. But prior to that, I mean, I was shoveling horse crap in the stables, doing that just so we could stay, at the rancher's little barn in there. So we did a lot of different things. And then when I was about 15, I filed for like the hardship to work permit, and then kind of got on and started working at Roses. I played football, so that really did help me. Football was a big part of my life during that part, So sometimes I'd crash out in the locker rooms as well too, So it's one of those things.
So, I'm from Canada. What's a hardship permit? Like, I'm not familiar with that. What
Yeah.
what does that mean?
So, and I'm not sure if they still do it. It's I think the step right before emancipation where you like kind of file to be a legal adult, but it's when you meet certain criterias, you're allowed to work or drive before 16. I think 16 is the minimum. So you file for this stuff, and it was just a form kind of in there, and you're supposed to have certain signatures in there. We just kind of made that part up and got it in there and started working. So, which was cool because that was pretty much the first time that I was like ever really going to like a doctor at that point, So,
You're playing football, you're going through school, you're working, you're all on your own here. How did it, did you end up doing well in school? Did you, graduate then? What, tell us about it, man.
yeah, school was a different story. When I was younger, they didn't really have like programs that they do now for learning disabilities. I say like ADHD and ADD or autism kind of really wasn't even a thing there. So early on, I would finish my work real quick, and then you know what else would a kid do? Like in second, third grade, would just kind of make noise after my work was done. I didn't really struggle with the work part of it, but I guess that was interference to the class, and the teacher, she just wasn't having it. She used to put me outside in the hallway, and I remember like second grade, I'm doing cartwheels down the hallway and just kind of doing laps and push up because I really did have real bad ADHD and this stuff. I mean, my work was done, and then well, I guess like she used to see me out there doing cartwheels and running up and down the halls. Uh, she used to tell me I was like mentally retarded. Uh, and she even sent me to the counselor's office to get tested, which was crazy. I remember so vividly. I'm sitting in this counselor's room, thinking like, "Dang, I like question myself if I'm like, mentally retarded." And I was like, "Dang, this is gonna suck," on top of all this stuff. And so I was in there, and the counselor came, and uh, man, he talked to me for a little bit, and he was like, he was pretty straightforward. He's like, "I'm gonna be honest, I don't think that you're mentally retarded, but we're gonna get you tested." And I remember thinking at that time, like, "Dang, if I don't do well on this test, like, I'm gonna go to this disabled class, and all the things in there." And so the next day I came in, and they had these like moderators come, and they tested me. Well, he didn't really tell me, but I was being tested for like the gifted individual program. So again, I'm stressing myself out, scoring anything, and did really, really well on that program or on that test. And so it qualified me to move into the gifted individual program. So at the time they had like these things, they're called like gym classes, for gifted students, and they would send you to these different classes. So from the south side, I would get bused, over to some of the north side schools like Santa Rita, Rusk. They would do I guess it was before they had like the
For
magnet
those
system.
not familiar with Midland, the south side is a lot rougher than the north side, correct?
That is correct. Especially back then, it was in there. I remember it was a whole nother environment. Like from coming from Travis, which was a really rundown school on the south side. I remember I got bused to Rusk, and that school was so nice. Like the people there were nice. They were just a lot nicer to you. The teachers actually like listened to you. So at the first time, I guess that's where I realized, hey, with schoolwork, I could do something with this. Like they actually listen to you, they listen to your ideas. They would send you to these creative classes. They would do all kinds of things in there. So I would say that as part of like school wise, that was a very pivotal and transitional point. I was one person away. Had that counselor not cared, like, pretty much the teacher, I probably would have been in like a mentally retarded class. And with my upbringing, more than likely I would have just not gone, like I'm not going to that school. Um, and I remember just, getting bused over there. Technically, I still had to ride a short bus. So, so I still had to get in this little short yellow bus and,
Or a limo.
yeah. And and the other kids did make fun of me, because all they knew was I was getting, bused to this mentally retarded school. But during that, in third grade, we qualified for, I think, I did a national spelling bee and won it. And so they sent those individuals to this program called Step Up to Success, which was like this mock interview kind of system. They had like some specialist doctors there. They had some lawyers, had a couple of like federal agents there. And you go and you do these mock interviews with them, and they kind of just prepare you for your career advancement step. And I liked all of them. I didn't really cling to anything except whenever this FBI agent, he was the director, I think, of like the uh, mid to West Texas area. He was talking to us, and again, this was back in the day. He brought a 50 cal sniper rifle, and he was taking it apart in there. They totally wouldn't allow that now. But I remember the way he was talking to me, he maintained eye contact the whole time he was disassembling his 50 cal and putting things together, just talking to me, and like the way he, would enunciate and project his voices, it just kind of instilled something in me. And he talked more about being a Marine and uh, and the purpose and the family. The thing that stood out to me was, he kept mentioning his family, and from somebody with not any family ties, that really resonated with me. And I was like, man, that's where I'm going to go and get my family. So at the time that I was third grade, I knew I was going to be a Marine, and nothing ever changed that path. So like everything that
So
I did
then
kind of stayed.
let's move ahead. You graduate high school, right? You've played football. You're doing this on your own. Right out of high school, where do you go?
So yeah, I graduated a little bit early at 17. So then we go to boot camp, and so I'm in boot camp, and it's a three
So you
months
signed up for the Marines right away, right out of high school.
right away. Yeah, so I'm there. I'm there at 17.
Was that a relief? You're on your own. You're kind of having to look after yourself. Now you're signed up with the Marines. They're gonna kind of take care of you, I guess. They got a place for you to live and food and all that. Was that a relief?
It was a relief. It was one of those like temporary reliefs. I remember on the plane. This is the first time I ever was on a plane, and we're flying in. And I remember the moment we get into like California area, first time I seen the water, the beach, everything. So I'm like thinking like, dang, this is a new direction for my life. And then you land and you get in there and you start getting yelled at from like the airport. You're getting shuttled in, and I immediately was second guessing, everything that I thought I had prepared myself. I watched the movies, I read the magazine, I did everything that I needed, but I don't think anything could really prepare anybody for that mental shock that you go into. So it was
So
that changing.
you make it through boot camp. Then what happens?
So after boot camp, they send you to. Well, I was one of five in my boot camp that was infantry. This is in 2005. A lot of people weren't signing up for infantry, because obviously the Marines were the first ones there. So I was infantry, so I went into my fleet unit and started doing infantry training. It's another 3 month school for infantry training. Did that, then they put you into your unit and pretty much getting ready to deploy. So here I am, just turning 18 on a plane to Iraq, and that
So
was it.
how long were you a Marine for?
5 years.
And how much time did you spend overseas?
Shoot, the majority of the time, 3 deployments, Fallujah, Afghanistan, then back to Fallujah.
Well, thank you for your service. That sounds amazing. I'm sure we could have a whole episode just talking about your time in the Marines here, but this is, we have a bunch of oil field people watching. So you get done with the Marines. What's the next step? Why did you leave? Why, was it just time to move on and do something else? Was it, how did you get transitioned out of the Marines?
So, like I said, I knew early on I was going to be a Marine, and my whole mindset was I was going to be a Marine for life. So I had no intentions of getting out. It's just one of those things I knew. Plus, with my upbringing, at the time I didn't want any kids. I thought that all I knew was bad parenting and bad adults in my life that I did not want to inflict or repeat that cycle. So it's a crazy story. Even at 18, I went and tried to get a vasectomy, and they wouldn't let me. Which, not to get too political, but so much for my body, my rights. they they would not let me get that done, and so. At the time I was married. That's kind of one of the things I left out was uh, yeah, yeah. So I met pretty much my first girlfriend from a very young age. We got married right when I graduated boot camp, and moved her out there with me. So we were together pretty much the whole time. And then on my last deployment, getting ready to go to Iraq, she was pregnant, and so it was kind of a shock uh, on a lot of different fronts. One, it definitely changes your mindset when you're in country. That it's it's no longer just coming back. Like I would do things that I probably that I know that I didn't do again, knowing that I had somebody to come back to, and again, I signed a reenlistment. I was going to transfer over to EOD, which is explosives ordnance. I think at the time they were needing NCOs, which are like non-commissioned officers, E4, E5 with combat experience. So it was going to be, I think, 126,000 tax free because I signed it over in country. All I had to do when we came back was swear in, and I signed up for another 4 years, and you get that money. Um, and that was the plan. Like I said, I didn't have any other plan than to be a Marine. And when I came back and I got off the plane and I saw my son for the first time, he was 4 months old. I picked him up, and it's like, not even to sound so cliche, but everything does change. Like the moment I held him and looked him up and just picked him up, I was like, man, I'm never leaving this kid ever again. Like
So that was the end of the Marines.
that was
Then I
it.
take it.
Yeah, I got out. Um, and again, too, back to that, we when you're transitioning out, they put you in these different programs, and I got to be a part of this program that was just starting up. It was called a Battle Simulation Center. So they bought this huge warehouse out in California, and they would simulate. Half of it would simulate like Iraq, and the other half would simulate like Afghanistan. They brought in actors, and you'd go in your full battle rattle, and you just go through these towns. And so my job was to get the Marines and train them up on like how to set up like snap ACPs, injury control points, different things that they would face in country, and go through different scenarios. Well, as we're doing that, it's a contract base, and so I'm getting out, and the guys that were starting up, they like, hey, we really like you guys. They're part of this team, and they offered us a contract to stay with them, and it was really good money. But the thing that scared me, especially with now having a family, was it was a year-to-year government contract. In hindsight, definitely wish I would have did that because those guys they're rolling in it now. But you make the decisions as you think are the best for you and your family. So I came back to Texas. That's what brought me back here. Don't know why we came back here. I mean, I guess it's because what we knew. Neither one of us had strong family ties, but
Was your wife from Midland as well?
yeah, she was from Midland.
Oh, very cool. So you get back to Midland.
Hmm.
Then what happens? What do you decide to do?
Well, the only thing that I feel like I know how to do, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna be a cop. I think I'll be good at this, and really, really quick, I knew that wasn't for me. I didn't really get along with the cops. I didn't, this was in 2010. Uh, their training to me was not sufficient. Their first response was always just to kind of, pull the weapon out or to kind of this stuff. And from coming from a country where, um, lethal force or deadly force was our last option. And these people, you're in a country where these people are trying to kill you. You have hostile intent and hostile act. And at any time, if you can safely disarm the situation without taking a life, that was always the way to go. And then it was almost like that whole, thing that was brainwashed and instilled in me was kind of being questioned, like, hey, this is, you put your gun out, it's about your safety and security. And man, I used to make comments at the time like, man, I would rather beat somebody with my nightstick than end a life because you can't bring that back, and a lot of them didn't like that response, and so I didn't get along with a lot of them, and I was like, man, this wasn't for me. So one of the times where we were doing patrol, we had pulled somebody over in Garden City, and there was a Apache field office out there with this big like help wanted sign. So I went in there and applied and just kind of started from
You
the
just walked
bottom.
in the door. You saw the
Yep.
help wanted sign. You just walked in. What'd they say when the cop walked in?
Nothing. The guy was kind of taken off, the foreman that I talked to, and it was such a bizarre interview. Like I didn't know
He
anything.
interviewed you right there and then.
Right there on the spot, he's just kind of asking. I think just the checklist at the time. I think oil was like at $97. This was in 2010, so it was right before that first like kind of bust in. So they hadn't even started horizontal drilling yet, but they were getting ready. They knew that they were about to because at the time, Obama said we're running out of oil, and that's kind of where they said, okay, well, we're going to start horizontal because we knew that's in there. Like that wasn't the deal. So I started working there. They needed help. They need help from the bottom up. And so I feel like anybody would have got the job, but I do felt like it was an impressionable interview only because, we're going in there and the guy was, going back and forth and I felt like I was failing it, like I didn't know any of these terminology questions. I didn't know anything, nothing about the oil field, never was around it at all. And I think when it finished, he was like, well, let me ask you something. If I put a crescent in your hand, will you have the same mentality you did as a Marine and, as you did with your rifle? And I thought about it and looked and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can kill somebody with a crescent, you know? And man, his face and everything, like his whole face just kind of changed. And I definitely knew at that time that wasn't the question or answer he was looking for. It was more of the worth ethics and the pride and stuff. But he kind of chuckled after that and he gave me a shot and I started doing rustabout and just kind of worked on the field. And man, anytime they needed help or volunteers, it was just me. I would volunteer, So from there, then they started doing the horizontal drilling and flowback, and it was kicking everybody's butt. And so then I was on flowback, and then I got really good at that. And then I started training flowback people, and then you just kept going from there. And then as we got to a point, the foreman that I had, he kept kind of pushing education on me, So I would do night classes here and there, and just kind of learn what I could, and just kept continuing
What
my.
kind of night classes? Like what kind of education did you push on? Like you start becoming an engineer or what?
No, so again, that wasn't even in my mindset. So going back to high school, I kind of finished early on with all my credits, and I didn't really know what to do. So I would just kind of look at the deals that you can do. So I took like CNA classes, and then I took an EMT class, and I got certified as EMT. Before I even graduated. And then so when I went and talked to the veteran career transition, he's like, "Well, you got lots of science questions, science." Classes. We'll start taking some science in there just to get. And originally, the goal was just to get like general studies, But I had a strong science background, and then as I'm doing it, just kind of I get to a place of I wouldn't say complacency, but maybe content with Apache. Like I was already like a senior pumper over there and just training, and things were kind of clicking and going. So I stopped doing school in there, and then everything kind of took a downturn. Everything was going through it, and Apache was struggling really hard. They were doing lots of layoffs, and I think like on the sixth or seventh round of layoffs, we were having to interview for our positions and stuff, and I started getting nervous, and didn't want to be on the chopping block. So I started looking at other places, and then looking with Oxy, and they had that engineering development program and all kinds of other stuff. So that's what I did. I interviewed with them and kind of got on, and never looked back.
So Apache, you go to Oxy, they have a development program, and now you're trying to be what kind of, like a petroleum engineer, production engineer, what?
Ended up getting my degree in petroleum engineering.
So where did you get that through? What school?
University of North Dakota is where I got the degree from. Like I said, pieced together from probably 20 different schools, from Midland College, UTPB, San Francisco College. I mean, anywhere at the time, in the military, I was taking little courses. So they had a really great veteran rep who was, man, really good. He was able to pull a lot of the stuff and correlate them into transferable credits.
So give us kind of like a little bit of a time. How long were you at Apache, and then how long did it take to become an engineer at Oxy?
Man, total. So I was with Apache for 7 years, and then I finally got my degree right in 2020 during that stuff. So man, it took a while. It wasn't something that I can say that I did consistently in there. I mean, I know I did a lot of night school. I did a lot of classes. So just kind of piece everything together, and during COVID, that's also when I got through my divorce. So that was another hard time, and instead of just turned into alcohol or the bars, which I really wanted to, I just kind of buckled down and finished up and it was such a small little piece that I had left for school. So, and then COVID made a lot of things remote, so that's really what helped it. And then just kind of went from there.
So, okay, you finish your engineering degree, you're at Oxy, COVID hits, they laid off a lot of people. Were you part of those layoffs? What happened there?
No, I wasn't part of the layoffs. I think I always let my fear get the best of me. Like I wasn't part of the layoffs. It's just same thing with like Apache. I just really was working towards in there. And I mean, Oxy was such a great company, and they definitely took care of me. So was Apache. I think every time that I left, it was always like I felt on good terms. Just kind of looking for something better, something more driven. So yeah, during Oxy, no, I was still working there. We were remote, kind of talking to different people at WellWorks. At the time, I wasn't even really looking. WellWorks has just always been they offer great training for production optimization. They put on dynograph interpretation classes. So I always knew of them as the site matter experts. Like if you really want to hone in your skill, that's this group of people. And then had so much respect for McKinn, Dr. Sam Gibbs, Dr. Victoria Pons. So the team was so well stacked in my mind. I was like, I kept kind of thinking like, man, that's the innovation team that I want to be a part of. I kept having these ideas of how to make things better. And I think when you get into like bigger corporations, they fall into that mindset of like kind of this is how we do it. This is how it's always been. And I wanted something different.
Is that what it kind of was like at Apache or Oxy? Like,
Yeah.
Were there any big accomplishments you're proud of over there? Did you make any changes with them, or is it not really possible over there?
No, I mean there was a lot of different things, a lot of great projects that were on. I mean, that was the good thing with Oxy and Apache is you do things with really good team members. You collaborate really well. So I was a part of a lot of big projects, really good things that happened over there. Really good cost saving measures that we took during COVID, during the pandemic afterwards. So a lot of that really correlates into kind of my success now. We were able to fill a lot of hats. Because right before COVID, Oxy took over Anadarko, and they had those volunteer separation packages. So there were so many positions and spots open up. Then COVID happened, and more separation packages were coming through. So we were such a lean team, which definitely exposed us to taking on more work and kind of diversifying ourselves. So I'm really grateful for that with Oxy is that diversification.
And so you find yourself now you're at WellWorks. How long have you been with WellWorks?
Started in March of this year.
And how's it going so far?
I love it. I love it. The best thing that I can say about WellWorks is it's a family, and that family is kind of what I was after. I had it when I was in the Marines, and then from there you kind of uh, do your part, especially with bigger companies. Again, not to take away anything from Apache or Oxy, but I mean, they're such big companies. The difference is, man, with
Oh, the
WellWorks.
levels you have to go through to get, to a decision maker to actually implement, because a lot of people get their say. And, if you can just have one guy who gets the, yep, we're going to move forward with this, it definitely makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
Did WellWorks know your entire history, or did they just look at you and be like, man, here's a guy that worked at Apache and Oxy. We like that experience, and here you go. Or did they did they get the whole story on you before they chose you?
No, they definitely didn't know the story. I very rarely have even talked about my past. So it's like I bet if they're listening to this now, they're probably just like, dang, it's a shock. Like I mean they kind of know like my involvement. I think one of the things that I told them to, like I've coached my kids football team since before that when they were playing
How many
soccer.
kids you got?
I got two boys, 14 and 11. So both.
So you're coaching. What else do you do? I hear. Janie kind of gave me a couple little snippets. You also work with. Is it a charity, a foundation, or you start? Is it on your own? What do you got going on?
Yeah,
Because besides all this, excellence in school, perseverance, don't got the support at home, but get through school anyway. Finish the Marines, finish the school. You're also giving more of your time away as well. So, what? Tell everybody about that.
yeah. So again, like I coached my kids, when they started out playing soccer and stuff. It was one of those things. I signed them up. I think it was like 3 or 4, my oldest at the time. And then you get an email back and it's like, hey, there's not enough coaches. Your kid's not gonna be able to play. And I'm like, well, that's not gonna work. So, and I knew nothing about soccer. I never played it. So
Same with me. I've been sucked in as well for coaching girls soccer, now boys soccer. So I hear you.
yeah, and then so you do it, and I guess at the time, these 3, 4 year old kids, I didn't know how impactful it was going to be. The very first year, I guess one of the things I would say, character trait is I used to say excessive, but I don't really like that word, so I'm gonna go with passionate. Things that I do, I'm a little bit more passionate about it, so I go all in. It's like all or nothing. So I'm the guy that's coaching these 3 and 4 year old kids, and I'm watching like videos on making them do soccer drills and like way more advanced than they need to do the first year. And I think that, but just seeing these kids and being around them, it definitely changes you. You get that give back feeling. I think that's where I really started feeling that level of fulfillment. I think you can do things in your career, in your personal life, and you can be satisfied. But I think we're all after fulfillment. Like what fulfills us? What do we wake up? What are we doing this for? And for me, it was my kids. But then as you start teaching and mentoring and with these kids, and you see their response, and man, you're a part of their growth, it definitely woke something up in me. So I continued doing it, and I think we kept getting better. Next year, same thing. And then we went over to flag when they became old enough, flag football, and then tackle football, and just kind of been coaching them and been going through it. Did both my boys. And then in doing that, kids during the time they struggle with different things, whether it's schoolwork or, the football team that we're a part of now is a really good organization. They really do a lot with the kids. I mean, we've got a lot of people involved in the school board district, that are really trying to keep the kids focused. The athletic director of the Falcons, I mean, he's on the school board district. We've got the fields on the fairgrounds, which is on the east side of town, which is another rough side of town. He was able to get those schools and the property tax there, get turf fields put out there. That's something that you would never see on the east or south side, or turf fields, and those are our practice fields, our home fields. So for the kids to come, in these neighborhoods, and they're not in the best place, and they do these things for the kids, giving back to them and letting them know that, hey, we'll work for them just as hard as they work for us. You see something different in these kids. You see a different response, and just hopefully that they start making the right choices. And yes, some of them do have troubled experiences, troubled homes. Taking kids home and picking them up from practice, you get that one-on-one time with the kids, and you get to know their story and kind of learning with them. And then so with that, I kind of stay in touch and reach out with them. I mean, we've done different tutoring things for them if they're struggling with school, different things that we've had key people come out and talk to them about, ones without dads, just different things in there, like changing tires, tying ties, handshakes. We have these 5 principles that you go over, hard work, integrity, all these different things that as a young man, as a young individual, you need to, have in your life. And for me, sports is a great method. You work hard at something, and you get better. And I think the thing that I love the most about this football organization is we usually get the kids that nobody else wanted, that weren't the most athletic. And man, we really do coach them up. We have winning seasons. And I think it's just in itself, to me, that's something, you take something or nothing and make it into something. And that's what we're after. And that's that fulfillment that, work aside, everything aside, I think that part of my life is in there. We do that. We do the mentoring stuff for the youth. I'm part of the
So
AC.
that's part of the football organization then?
Yes, sir.
Is those principles you're teaching, the handshakes, all that is part of the coaching stuff? Is that stuff you go out, are you raising money for that? Is that just all on volunteer basis? What, are you tied in with any other charities? How does that work?
No, so yeah, it's volunteer based. All the other coaches, none of us get paid in there. We're just out there putting our time in there. A lot of the coaches, just speak from their personal experience. We all had our level of hardships. I think everybody does, and my level of hardship doesn't make it any more severe than anybody else, because if that's the hardest thing they've gone through at their time, it's comparable. So we all have our own journeys and paths that we took. So we just gotten together and got a good group, very football savvy group. And that's one thing that I love the most about them is, the AD, John Norman, he played for Texas Tech. He was like a All-American there. So he definitely knows football. Tim Norman, same thing. I mean, those guys, they've taught me everything. I remember, I used to coach at the GMFL. I had our own team, and I joined over with them about 3 years ago. And we always teach and coach kids, and I always thought I was pretty good at that. But actually, like teaching them the game of the football, man, I've learned so much with this group of people. So yeah, we're all volunteer based. I mean, it's through the PBYFL and then our team, and then John has these other youth agility training centers, that he does in there. So there's a lot of opportunities for kids, especially kids that want to learn and develop. He does these community outreaches too, as well, at his place that he has. I think, during the summer and stuff, he orders these jumpers and stuff for out there in there. They've done backpack giveaways for back to school. So definitely in there. But yeah, it's just all volunteer. It don't do any fundraisers. I mean, other than what we'll charge to get into the games, and that kind of goes back into the team. So a lot of it is a break-even point, so we've had to put some things out in pocket. I know he's thrown some things out of his pocket. So it really just is about the kids.
Well, you're in the right town for corporate sponsorships and stuff. I don't know. Hopefully, there's enough oil companies that need to support the community and stuff. I think maybe if we get the word out a little bit more, maybe we can, I don't know, get a little bit of more support for you. It's, the name of my show actually, is Tally Book Tuesday, or Tally Book Troubleshooting. I'm sorry. And a lot of people come on, and the original basis of this was problem solving. Somebody had a problem, and, in the oil field, and they took, the time to troubleshoot it and figure it out. Now to switch gears here a little bit, I know you're talking about yourself here. You work for WellWorks, you've worked for Oxy, you've worked for Apache. heck, even back in the Marines, you got a quick little story, not to put you on the spot here, of a problem you had and something you came up with was a little, maybe not ingenious, but maybe ingenious, maybe clever, something. Do you got something that you could share with us? And if you don't, the whole point of the show was to get your story out there, but at the same time, giving you the platform to talk a little bit more here about your amazing troubleshooting abilities, if you got one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's definitely what I'm loving at WellWorks is that's what we specialize is troubleshooting problems. A lot of the
Give me
things.
an example.
I think the industry as a whole, we're struggling with, let's say, deviation. Wells that are drilled, deviated. So you reach that point where on how we're going to produce it. Which artificial lift method are we going to use? If we use ESPs, they're only sustainable because to a certain amount. Now we have high gas rates, right? So our gas is coming in. So now we're wondering if we have enough gas to convert it over to a gas lift, or if we're going to rod it up. But typically when we rod it up, operators would lose anywhere from 5 to 25% of oil loss just from an artificial lift change, not including the incurred expenses that come with that. So we have different solutions to help with those transitional stages, or even as they're producing in there.
Do you have one specific example where you can share, like a real life? You don't have to give the names, but do you have one quick example you can?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really a believer in is our ESP gas bypass system. So it's one of those ones that really help on those tweener wells. The ones that are on that last stage of ESP, but the total fluids are too much to kind of convert over to a rod lift because we would lose it. Because rod lift you can only do so much. Total barrels. So with this ESP gas bypass system, we're essentially building a two-phase separator below the packer. So you run your packer and then you set your helix down, try to get around the 45-degree inclination. And that's going to get us about 25% extra separation coming out. So with that room from the packer to our fluid intake, we're basically creating a two-phase separator. Your gas is going to break out and come to the top, and then your fluid will come in there. And then when the gas breaks out the top, we give it a place to go. So it has a bypass port with this half-inch stainless steel tubing that kind of runs along the motor. It goes internally through the packer, then runs out, and then runs along the side of the motor, pumps, and everything, and then it discharges through the casing annulus. So what we're doing is we're getting more casing gas through the casing annulus and less through your pump intake, which is allowing you to draw your pump intake pressure down and reach those target drawdowns while maintaining production. So it just extends the life of ESPs, and then we're able to draw it down more. So now we've extended the life and we've drawn it down, and now we can hit that successful stage. Okay, now we're ready to change over into a rod lift, right, without losing all that production. So that's one of the best ones I think that we do. And then when it comes to rod lift applications, I mean, they have the best gas separator tools on the market because they offer the most separation between the casing annulus. So they're doing a lot of great things. They have a lot of great people in there, and we definitely help with problems. And I think that's one of the things that I love the most is you get so fixated, when you're with Oxy or with Apache, you're dealing with those problems. And then over here at WellWorks, I'm a part of all these main operators' problems and in their failure meetings and their well reviews. And we're able to say, okay, this is a commonality. This is what we're struggling with. And then you bring it back to your team, and then, they're the right people to do something with it and take it and say, they look at problems and they're trying to make solutions, where everyone else is kind of like, oh, that's in a level of acceptance, that's kind of, oh, it always is, we know that deviation, we're going to have a high failure rate, but that doesn't have to be the case. We can still make it better. Right. And on top of that, now we can look into energy conservation stuff. So there's different methods in there that we're part of, different case studies that are going to be coming down the pipeline on energy conservation, stuff like that, how we can extend life, keep costs down, and increase production.
How has your transition been from, operator to service? Have you enjoyed it?
It was a transition. I will say that it was a transition. I wasn't used to reaching out and not getting responses. I think that was a big
what?
thing. Yeah.
Oil companies always respond. What were you talking about?
but that was a humbling moment too, because I was on the other end and I was like, man, I used to be that guy, right? I used to be that guy, and so now it's definitely a humbling factor. So I think the thing that, even when I told these guys, coming over, even though they do sell stuff, one of the things I kind of specialize or pride myself is I really don't go in there trying to sell anything. I mean, let's try to production optimize, find some opportunities there, and then if these tools or anything are kind of something that meets your requirements, then we'll go from there. But mainly problem solving and getting everything in there. As a production engineer, I kind of look at every well, and I feel like, again, not obsessive or too much in there. I'm just very passionate about it. So even if it's not my well, I feel like, okay, how can we make this better? How can we extend it? And I started looking at all the different factors, cost, what it would take to do this, or the transition from coming there, and what's going to be the best solution for the company. And every company's in different situations and they operate differently. And so how we can help. And I think we're doing that. I think we're building a great platform. The more interactions that we're having is, hey, we're just here to help. And, a lot of people get these, jaded ideas from service companies, and some service companies probably are, they're just trying to sell the snake oil and as good as it can while oil is good. And then they get out, now you got all this down stuff. But I think everything that we do is data driven. There's a lot of research and data behind it to kind of prove it. And then when solutions don't work out, deep diving in, okay, well, what went wrong? And that goes back to this team again. In solutions that didn't work out, you bring it back to this team, and they make adjustments, and that's the big thing, is you make adjustments and you improve on it. Even though this application works on all these other areas, this, producing zone maybe was just a little bit different. So how can we do it? Whether it's changing up metallurgy or changing up different configurations. That's what I love about it. Is you come here and you come to a team that's very supportive, and just really the whole goal, everybody's goal is making a difference. And that's the part that I really love.
Your transition from operator to service. A lot of guys out there. Is there any insight you could share, maybe going one way, that people could use, that they could use a transition from service to operator? Any advice, coming from the operator side, that guys, who are in your current position, what kind of experience could they leverage to get that opportunity?
Yeah, so I think the things that I can say that I've learned, from coming operator to the service side is, we tend to think, just because work is, going through fast and stuff, we tend to think that, oh, okay, we're going to present this to an operator and then they make the decision and it's so implemented. But there's so many different things that have to go through, like there's a lot of planning that takes place. So, you do these plannings and you implement it in there. So for on the service side of it, yeah, once things start going and you get into the service, you'll be busy. But I think on the operator side of it, there's a lot more that goes into it, from each well, writing up a failure plan, doing the AFEs, getting the approval process. So patience, I think service companies, that most of the people that I talk to, that's kind of where they're lacking, is in that patience department. And then just overall discussion, really understanding what they're struggling with. If it's a cost issue, then you approach it that way. If it's a failure rate issue, then you approach it that way. If it's a production loss issue, then you approach it that way. Understanding really what the problem is. And like I said, every organization is built differently. Some people are focused on reducing failure rate and minimizing costs. And some people don't really, I'm not going to say don't really care about them, but it's not as important as a failure rate as far as getting every barrel, from in there. So just understanding the difference and knowing each operator as an individual approach would be the best thing that I would say on that part of it.
Well said, sir. So we're near the end here. How do you feel? This is your first podcast, video cast. Was it okay or what?
No, it definitely was okay. Good conversations. I'm not used to talking this much about myself, so I don't know.
I,
It's
I
different.
I I have a feeling some stuff got left out, but that's okay. Now everybody knows you exist, and it's a matter of people going to be reaching out to you. You're on LinkedIn, correct, sir?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that was another thing too. I guess from the service side, I remember I came in and I had a LinkedIn profile, but it was so not really put together. I don't really do social media stuff either. So, our marketing lady, she kind of said, "Oh, you need to get more on LinkedIn." And as I'm doing it, then it does. I mean, there's a lot of, I've met some really good people through LinkedIn, not just as customers, but just as, collaborative minds, man. There's a lot of people out there doing really great things. Even if they're competitors, I feel like, man, if we can all let go of our egos, we'd all be amigos, right? And we all, no matter if they're competitive, no matter what, man, there's really great minds out there, and we can accomplish really great things, working and collaborating on that part of it. And that's one of the things I've been taking around from there is I really do like LinkedIn on that deal. And I need to get better at sharing more things and posting more things. But I guess I find people that are really good at it, like yourself, and we have a marketing group. I kind of looked over y'all's pages. I'm like, man, these guys are definitely getting the word out there. Things you want to say, things you want to do, but just as far as our part, I hadn't done it. And then I look at your stuff and I'm like, man, he's doing it. You're doing it. You're
It came from necessity, right? Like I got laid off in 2020 and I, just couldn't wait around for the phone to ring. You know what I mean? I couldn't just send resumes out. I had to make as much noise to get noticed as possible. If I could go back and tell my younger self, one thing, it would be to network more. I was always against it. I was operations guy. I was, a little bit of a subject matter for wireline, for horizontal completions, and I always thought that would get me where I needed to be. And in the end, it didn't matter. So whenever I talk to anybody, younger or even, especially on the operator side, I think it even became very apparent that you need to network more because 2020 affected them, right? A lot of them got laid off where, they figured, oh, I'm an operator. I don't need to worry about this. I'm going to work here forever. And it, it was great. Oh, we have people quoting your great quote, Orlando, drop the egos and become amigos. It's out there. LinkedIn user comes up LinkedIn user because your settings are on private. My wife chiming in. Thank you, baby. I didn't know if you were watching or not. Hiding in the house. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So, sir,
yeah,
really appreciate you coming on. Anything
yeah.
else you want to shout out, or the floor is yours.
Just to kind of harp on the networking part and how important it is, and creating a good relationship with people you meet, because you never know where you're going to see them again. One of the things, for instance, is kind of where I'm at. I feel like this is where I need to be at. This is where I want to be at. But Russell Messer, who's a VP of WeldWorks, he was actually my neighbor way back when. I mean, time when I was at Apache, and so 2010 in there. Him and his wife moved in. They were a young couple, hadn't had any kids yet. They were kind of next to us, and we just he was starting from the bottom too. He's got another great story. He was starting from the bottom too, and installing automation equipment, and now he's like the VP of WeldWorks. But we just had such a great relationship bond, and more venting about work environments because we were in different places. But then he moved away, and we kind of stayed in touch. And then as things kind of play in, everything comes back, and people circle back in your life when they're ready to make an impact. And I think that was the deal with me and Russ. So networking and being kind to people, because you never know when they're coming back around. Russell's a great story too. I mean, he was a field guy when I met him, and now he's up there doing great things. Making things happen.
WeldWorks giving you your props. There it is, man. You did great.
She's amazing.
Thank you for coming on, sir. We'll need to get together here in real life and actually officially meet here. Great to meet other great people from the Permian. I love it out here. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Canada, and wish I could have got here sooner. The people are amazing. I know people are like, oh, it's dry. It's not as beautiful as, wherever other place to talk about, but you can't, there's amazing people out here. There's lots of opportunity, and I don't know. I've enjoyed it, and it was great being out here for COVID. So anybody who likes the Permian or from here, big props. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, definitely. For sure.
And we'll close it up there, sir. I'll if you stay in the little broadcast area for a moment, we'll close it up, but I'll take you off the screen. Say goodbye to everybody.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to my story. Really appreciate it.
Reach out to Orlando on LinkedIn and let them know if you enjoyed it or you talked or want to learn more or you need WellWorks, WellWorks production solutions. And until next time, everybody, next week we're going to talk about LAGCO. So tune in there, find out more about the show in Lafayette, October 19th, 20th, 21st. Arc Energy will be there, and that is how you troubleshoot. Have a great day, everybody. Until next time.